A man in a loud tie stares morosely at a chessboard.
Excuse me, I hate to interrupt your game, but could I ask you a few questions?
What game? This ain't a game, it's a slaughter.
He's right, you know. So let me die in peace, would you?
Does this mean anything to you?
Not really.
Does this mean anything to you?
Not really.
Could I ask you a few questions?
Sure, I'm not too busy at the moment.
So what has Sam told you about voodoo?
That's about all I can remember.
Does this mean anything to you?
Not really.
Sorry to bother you, but could I ask you a few questions?
I'm not the chatty type, am I, Sam?
No, you old bastard, you're not.
Besides, I'm busy sucking poor old Sam dry. Go bug someone else.
You're a real sweetheart, Marcus, you bastard.
Somebody's using it right now. What do I need with a table?
Their tabletop has an inlaid chessboard. Gabriel has spent enough hours sitting around this bar.
Nah. Better not. Her boyfriend doesn't look too friendly.
This isn't that kind of bar.
Can I ask you some questions?
I'm trying to be with my lady here, pal.
Far be it from me to stand in the way of romance. Hey, how's it going?
Could you excuse us? We're talking here.
That would be rude. That would be rude.
Does this mean anything to you?
Not really.
Does this mean anything to you?
Not really.
The velvet chairs are getting a bit threadbare. A man in a loud tie stares morosely at a chessboard.
Are you sure I can't bother you with a few questions?
Mister, please, I'm trying to turn this game around.
Yeah, right. Got a crowbar?
Shut up, you bastard.
It's a piece of brick.
Does this mean anything to you?
Can't say that it does.
Gabriel, I'm so glad you stopped by.
Oh, sorry it's been a while, Grandma.
Not at all. Give me a kiss.
Now, come on, sit down. Tell me how you're doing.
On the wall are portraits of Gran and Granddad when they were young. Gabriel's inherited some good-looking genes. Mostly pictures of Gabriel, his dad, and Harrison Knight. Grandmother Knight rarely uses the fireplace these days. Too much of a hassle to clean. Gran has a way with plants and kids. Gran's knitting. She whips through that stuff like there was no tomorrow.
That's my Gran. Adorable as always.
Oh, you're such a tease.
Granny likes soft lighting. Gabriel grew up in this room. Just being here makes him feel safe. And after about 5 minutes, claustrophobic. That clock has been in the Wright family, Granny's family, for centuries. The sofa has a worn blue chintz pattern that Gabriel remembers fondly.
How have you been, Grant?
Just fine, dear. I'm sorry I bothered you at work, but, I was hoping you'd get a chance to go through your father's things in the attic.
Don't be silly. You can call me anytime. Tell me about our family.
Who would you like to hear about? Your granddad, your father, or your mother?
Tell me something about Granddad.
Your granddad immigrated to America when he was 21. He walked his way through school, met and married me, and we had your father, Philip.
Tell me something about Granddad.
Your granddad supported me and your father with bookkeeping. Oh, I tell you what, though, he hated every minute of it. Didn't really like bookkeeping one bit. Maybe that was why he had the worst luck with jobs. Oh, the nights he'd come home afraid to tell me he lost another. And I'd tell him it didn't matter to me, but he felt ashamed, Gabriel.
Tell me something about Granddad.
Harrison was only 36 when he died. Your father was 8 years old at the time. Your granddad was hit by a streetcar in the business district. It took me nearly a year to believe he was really gone.
I'm sorry, Grant.
Oh, I know you are, dear.
Tell me something about Granddad.
Did you know that your granddad was a poet? He was. He wrote the most beautiful poetry for me when we were courting. I always thought he should have done something with that gift, but he was such a practical man, didn't believe in chasing after dreams.
Tell me about my father.
Your father was my only child. How we adored him.
Tell me about my father.
Philip suffered from terrible nightmares, just like your granddad did. Oh, they were two peas in a pod.
Tell me about my father.
When Philip met your mother, oh, it was love at first sight. They were married 2 weeks later. Never looked at a girl seriously until then, and he looked at plenty. You have your father's way with women, Gabriel. And your granddad's.
Tell me about my father.
I wanted to just lay down and die when he and your mother were killed in that car crash when you were only 8. It was the thought of taking care of you that kept me going, Gabriel. The police say your father swerved off the road after being frightened by something. Perhaps a deer in the road, or a wildcat.
Tell me about my father.
Your granddad wanted Philip to have a normal life. He was obsessed by that thought. He pushed Philip to go to law school, but Philip was driven to art. He painted almost in a daze. He would get so inside himself when he worked.
Tell me about my father.
He always hated that it was Margaret's money that supported the 3 of you when his painting couldn't. I kept telling him, try something more cheerful, like a landscape or two, but he couldn't do it. His work was just too dark and disturbing for the public, you know.
Tell me about my mother.
Your mother was Margaret Templeton when your father met her. She came from a very wealthy Creole family in New Orleans. She was beautiful and reckless. She was madly in love with your father, of course, but I also think she liked to find her family. Since you're so interested in family history these days, why don't you go by St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 and visit the family tomb? It would be such a sweet gesture.
It's just past the Ross tomb, right? Oh, maybe I will. Tell me about my mother.
Your mother's family refused to give her money after the marriage. All she had left was a modest trust fund from her great aunt, who happened to like Philip. The remainder of your mother's trust fund became yours when she died. That's what you used to open your bookshop.
Tell me about my mother.
The Templetons are all gone now. Every last one of them. Oh, they never wanted anything to do with us, of course. What a waste.
Tell me about yourself.
Me? Surely you have something more interesting to talk about.
No, come on, Gran.
Oh, all right, dear. What do you want to hear?
Tell me about before you met Granddaddy.
Well, you know I was born Rebecca Wright. My daddy owned a lot of land outside of town. We grew peas and corn and cotton, all kinds of things. It was a good childhood, but my father was very strict. He didn't much let me out of his sight.
Tell me how you met Granddaddy.
Oh, I met Harrison at a church revival. There was a traveling preacher back then, a big fella named Reverend Jim. I even remember his slogan, "Come to me to find your way." Your granddad was sitting right behind me and my girlfriend, Alma. And at one point, old Reverend Jim was flinging his hair around with his fine brimstone annex. And a piece of it, one of those small add-on do's for men, went flying off. I swear, Harrison and I were the only ones that noticed. We both started laughing to beat the band. Everyone looked at us like we were a couple of loonies. Oh, it was then I knew that he was for me.
How you feeling these days?
Fit as a fiddle, and don't you worry your head about it.
What do you do all day?
You know how I love to knit and work in my garden. I also take long walks. It's the only way to keep an old body like mine from stiffening up.
You're not old.
Oh, don't be foolish. I'm older than the hills.
Just tell me anything at all.
I had your father when I was 22. The doctors told me I couldn't have any more after him, so I'm afraid I spoiled him rotten.
Just tell me anything at all.
I hate to admit it, but I was a jealous little thing when your granddaddy and I were younger. I loved him so ferociously, and he did attract the eyes of the ladies whether he wanted to or not.
Oh, nothing. Never mind.
All right, dear.
You know, you get prettier every time I see you.
Oh, you.
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
New Orleans is very southern, of course, though not as much as it used to be when I was a girl. It's gotten much more influenced by the East Coast and that California stuff. Still, it hasn't changed as much as other places, I reckon. We've always been happy here.
What can you tell me about New Orleans?
My goodness, boy, you lived here all your life, just like me. I can't tell you much that you don't already know.
What can you tell me about St. John's Eve?
St. John's Eve? I remember when I was a girl, we always had a St. John's Eve Mass. The Mass was said at midnight, and we held candles. One time, on the way home, we were waylaid by a large group of drunken revelers. They didn't hurt us, but oh, I was frightened. My father was furious. We never went to St. John's Eve Mass after that.
What can you tell me about St. John's Eve?
I haven't celebrated it in years, Gabriel. I'm sure there's still Mass in the more traditional churches, but I don't go.
Have you baked any of your incredible molasses pies lately?
No, dear, but you let me know when you want some and I'll whip up a half a dozen.
Have you ever heard of Marie Laveau?
Marie Laveau. Oh, of course. She was that voodoo woman, wasn't she? She preyed on people's fears and superstitions, is what I think. There are always those willing to take other people's money for nothing. You stay away from people like that, Gabriel.
Yes, Gran. What can you tell me about voodoo?
Voodoo? What an odd question, Gabriel. Of course, you always were interested in monster movies and all that other weird stuff. You get that from your father and Granddad. I don't know anything about it, dear. Of course, it was very big in New Orleans at one time, but you don't hear so much about it these days. Too much else in the world to worry about, I guess.
You've lost weight. Are you courting a new man?
Oh, Gabriel, don't be silly. You know there'll never be anyone but your granddad for me.
What's new, Gran?
I've been working on baby sweaters for the church bazaar. Keeps me busy.
Tell me about yourself.
What more do you want to know, dear?
Just tell me anything at all.
I get lonely sometimes, but I have lots of girlfriends in the neighborhood. I call one of them if I'm feeling blue.
Oh, nothing. Never mind.
All right, dear.
Done anything interesting lately?
I raised you.
Lately, Gran.
Oh, you know me, Gabriel. I always got my nose poked in something.
It must run in the family. Oh, nothing. Never mind.
All right, dear.
Does this mean anything to you, Gran?
Sorry. No, Gabriel.
Steal Granny's knitting? How low can you get? Gabriel doesn't knit? Okay, so Gran did teach him once, but he hasn't done it in years.
Does this mean anything to you, Gran?
I believe that was your father's, Gabriel. You keep it.
I'm gonna go up to the attic, Gran.
Be careful of the dust.
These old picture frames have been up here for years. A skylight lets welcome sunlight into the attic. That box of knickknacks has been up here for at least 5 years.
There's nothing I want in there.
An elaborate mechanical clock, probably of German origin, is among the discarded treasures of the attic. There's an interesting design in the base of the clock.
I think I'll leave that up here.
It's an old, dusty bicycle tire.
I think I'll leave that up here.
It's an old dress dummy that Gran had in her sewing room years ago.
My first impression of the female form. It's Granddaddy's old golf bag. Golf was never my game. I'm not sure what my game was, but it wasn't golf.
The sheet-covered upholstered rocker used to be in Gabriel's nursery.
I think I'll leave that up here.
The old trunk looks like it's gone to hell and back.
It looks pretty heavy. There's a lot of Granddad's old stuff in here. Might be something interesting.
Some old clothes, including a pair of leather shorts.
Aren't those called lederhosen? What's this? It's some sort of key.
A bundle of letters. Love letters between Harrison and Rebecca. It's an antique clock key, most commonly used to wind antique clocks. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Nothing happens.
I don't think there's anything else in that trunk that would interest anybody but my gran.
It's a lady's hat from the 1920s.
You know, from Gran's Virginia Woolf period. I think I'll leave that up here. I think I'll leave that up here.
The brass bed frame is from God knows where. Grandma's attic is a storehouse of forgotten treasures and useless junk.
Can we talk, Gran?
Of course, my boy. How can I help?
Do you know anything about snakes?
Snakes? What kind of snakes, dear?
Oh, I don't know, local kinds.
Well, we used to get cottonmouths in the park when I was a girl, but I haven't heard of one being sighted for years. Milk snakes and garter snakes are also around these parts, but they can't hurt you.
Thanks, Gran. Does the phrase cabrice and co mean anything to you?
Something without something, I think. Oh, my French is so rusty, I swear my mind is going.
No, it's okay. Thanks. Your hair looks very pretty today, Gran.
Well, thank you, dear. So does... Well, you've always had such nice, thick hair, Gabriel.
Do you know anything about animal masks?
Why, no, dear. Do you mean Mardi Gras masks?
Never mind, Gran. Have you ever heard of Damballa?
What, dear?
Never mind. You're looking well, Gran.
Oh, thanks, dear.
Oh, nothing. Never mind.
All right, dear.
On the wall are portraits of Gran and Granddad when they were young. Gabriel's inherited some good-looking genes. Granny doesn't like anyone messing with her clock, including Gabriel. Fresh carnations, Granny's favorite. Granny likes soft lighting. Granny likes the lamps lit.
That's my Gran. Adorable as always.
Oh, you're such a tease.